Ye hear ye. The Biz Coach Show is now in session. The Honorable Eric T. Whitmoyer hosting. Good day, sir.
Not
Yes,
sure
we are
where to
fully
go with that.
caffeinated. We are fully caffeinated and ready to fucking go.
Yeah, well, we're
Hey,
getting late.
I was watching the Holy Grail, man. Yes.
Oh, okay.
I was watching some Monty Python and
Good Lord. All right.
couldn't help it, man. Was it an African swallow or a European swallow?
All right. So today we're going to talk about the scaling ceiling. Nobody talks about it, but why profitable business still can't break through and get to the level of scale that they like to achieve. And I say level of scale. They can't break through the different phases of scale. So let me start with this. First of all, just because you have a profitable business doesn't mean you have a scalable business, right? And what often happens, and ironically, I'll steal a phrase. I've probably used it on the show before, but I'll steal a phrase from our friend Mickey from the movie Rocky. The worst thing that can happen to a fighter is he gets comfortable.
Civilized.
He gets civilized. Yeah, exactly. I say comfortable. So the worst thing that can happen to an entrepreneur is that they get comfortable, right? Whether that's financially or maybe it's life, right? They find some balance in their life. They get married, have kids, whatever it might be. But when you're hungry and you were going in the beginning, you were all in and you were putting in the hours, and eventually, honestly, it gets old, right? It gets tiring. It will take the energy out of you. Entrepreneur's life, as we've talked about many times, can be draining and challenging at times. And so you get to a point where I'm profitable, the business is good, I don't feel like I'm killing myself, I'm making a decent living, the family's happy, I got balance in my life, I don't need more. I hear that from a lot of business owners. Now, depending on where you're at in your phase of scale, that may be accurate for you. And that phase of scale is going to be different for everybody, right? Not everybody wants to be, multi-million-dollar company. Not everybody wants to be a unicorn that goes to $1 billion. But the truth of the matter is, unless you're doing at least $1 million in top line revenue, realistically, you're not insulated very well. Just from a sheer economic perspective, I've done the numbers before over and over and over. If you're doing less than $1 million in top line revenue, even at a 20% net margin, you'll be happy to be making $150,000, $200,000 a year, which sounds like a really good income until there's a 20% adjustment or 30% adjustment in the market. Your business gets tighter. There's a sanction on where you buy your products from, and all of a sudden there's
Right.
$25 tariffs or 25% tariffs. And now all of a sudden there's a 10, 20, 30% adjustment in your net margins, and you go from making 150 to 200,000 to 100 to 125,000. That is a noticeable adjustment in your lifestyle.
Not to mention if you need to buy equipment, you need to hire more people, things like that.
And
Any
that
increase
is
in your overhead. Yeah.
Yes, and that's an ongoing need. That doesn't stop, right? The equipment that I buy today, most businesses have that type of equipment purchase is usually like a 5-year. Now, I'd love to say it's going to be 7 or 10, and some of the best operators probably are able to get 7 to 10 years out of the equipment they buy. But sometimes it's just the reality of it. It's 3 to 5 years, and that's what you're going to get, right? So anyway, I say all of that to say, not to mention with technology the way it is today, is you could buy equipment today, and with the technology, the stuff that you could buy, like I work with a metal fab company, metal fabricator, and they have, I can't remember the exact technology, but the technology they have is good. It does what they need it to do, but if they moved up from what they are using to a laser cutter, and I can't remember the specific the specifics around that, but if they move this different laser cutter, they could increase their client base by about 40%.
Yeah.
Because there's
That's
certain
huge.
types of metal cuts that they can't do because they don't have this specific laser cutter, and it's about $250,000 piece of equipment. So not when you and they're doing $1.2 million, $1.4 million a year. So the reality is, $250,000 piece of equipment, not unreasonable, right? If it's going to increase business by 20 to 40%.
Yeah, that's
By the way,
massive.
it probably increases their margins too, because it creates a lot less extra work, right?
Yeah,
But
right.
but they can't afford the financing for it.
Once you get past that ratio, the profitability to
Right.
yeah,
Yeah. But the problem is they can't afford the financing for it. Why can't they afford the financing for it? Because right now they're in a comfort spot. They do okay, they pay the bills, they pay the payroll, everything's good, the revenue coming in is solid, but the business can't support a $250,000 loan, right? And so now he could do some creative financing solutions or something like that, might be able to pull something together. But he's going to have to come up with hard cash somehow to finance it, get the down payment to get it done. And now there's ways to do that, and you, Chris, of all people, would know that there's definitely certain ways that you could probably try and figure that out. He's trying to be
yes,
conservative, and in the grand scheme of things, the problem is that $250,000, the payment on that would eat into the margins that he has, and he may have to actually take a pay cut in the short term to be able to take on in this loan for this. But then, and you're betting on the come, right? You're betting on the fact that you're going to take this debt on. You maybe sell off your old equipment, or maybe you use that for some of your work, and then you bring in the new equipment for this new work that you're expected to get, and then you get your sales team to go drive that and increase the business, and you get a 20 to 40% lift with better margins and all that kind of stuff. But it might take 6 months for all of that to play itself out,
right.
right? To
That's
see
where
the
you got to
benefit from
calculate.
all
Said
of that.
that calculate that where you meet start meeting you get even and meeting that profitability, but you got to calculate all that out prior to, like, when is this going to offset completely.
Right. And so let's just say, for the sake of argument, it is 6 months out, right? 4 to 6 months. That's 4 to 6 months, right? That's a like, I'm taking a hit on my
You're going
on my
lean.
personal.
Yeah.
I'm taking a hit on my personal comp. I'm carrying more debt than I want to carry. Whatever. There's a number of different factors. So the question becomes, I have a profitable business, but it's not scalable until I get the equipment that I need to take my business to the next level. And oh, by the way, if the equipment if the equipment that I want to buy does enhance the clients that I get, and potentially even increases not just the clients they get, but the types of clients I get, which are bigger, better margin clients that buy more product. Now I'm also going to have to add a headcount. Well, now I've got even more debt I got to take on, because I got to carry that payroll, which may take me a month or two to onboard that payroll until they're truly effective, right? So all of that saying, what we're really kind of getting down to is that the business owner has to make that calculated decision to make the leap, to go from when they're in that phase of scale. You're a million to, let's say, a million to 3 million, which is that next phase. To go from there, from architect to the next level, where you go to $3 to $10 million. That leap is significant, because think about this: if you have the same 20% margin on a $10 million business versus the 20% margin on $1 million business, that is life changing.
Yes, that's a massive
Right.
number.
Yeah, and hey, here's the thing: anybody who's ever done it will tell you to make your first million is freaking hard.
Yeah.
To go from 1 million to 3 million is not nearly as hard, and to go from 3 million to 10 million, because for all intents and purposes, most of the hard work has been done. It's just kind of piling on and kind of going to the next level, right? So, but here's the thing: people get scared, people get nervous, people get comfortable, they're like, ooh, I'm good here, let me just stay where I'm at before I try and jump too far forward. And that's where we run into this issue, where a profitable business isn't necessarily a scalable business. And there's a lot of factors that play into this. Often the owner's still the bottleneck. They're still holding on to decisions that they need to disseminate and delegate things out to. Systems were built for last year's revenue, right? So like we were just talking about, this is the way that we run the business today. Last year we did 1.2. That a lot of people look at it and say, well, we went from 1.2 to 1.35 million. That's solid.
Mm-hmm.
But part of the reason why you didn't go from 1.2 to 1.8 is because your systems are set up to be, they're almost bottlenecking the ability for the business to grow. the way that we move product around the warehouse, the way that we capture our leads and how long it takes us to put together a quote, the way that we
replenish the inventory. Yep, the whole thing. Turning over the inventory. Yep.
Exactly. Whatever that might be, those are factors that are actually limiting the growth. And the average business owner doesn't know what they don't know. They haven't seen a business at $3 or $5 million. So they don't see the things that are tripping them up, and they don't see why they're not able to scale faster. So you go from 1.2 to 1.35. I'm not sneezing at it. That's not bad. That's a nice lift. But the reality is there's a real chance it could have been 1.5 or 1.8 or even 2.1 million. But you wouldn't know if you aren't taking a hard look at your systems and processes and identifying that those might be your bottlenecks.
If there was only some resource that was out there where business owners could learn about the playbook for scale. If there was just a resource out there,
Appreciate the plug, Chris. So then the third one is the team that got you where it got you is not the team that's going to take you to the next one, right? So, yep. We're both sports fanatics. The team that gets you to the playoffs may not be the team that can get you to the Super Bowl. And the reality is, you have to look at all 22 players on that team, or all 54 players, whatever it is, to look at that team and identify.
53 on a football.
53. My bad. But you've got on offense, you may have a great running back, but if you don't have a solid quarterback, you may not have to have the best quarterback, but if you don't have a solid quarterback, you're not going to the Super Bowl. You're certainly, even if you get there, you're not winning. Because you'll get beat by a better quarterback.
Those killer defense, hence the Ravens, Bears.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And it was what was it?
Roethlisberger. I mean, but
in the early days, because Roethlisberger wasn't a proven quarterback, right? And they had Super Bowls, and he was not the quarterback that he became later in his career.
The defense carried him. Yeah,
the defense carried him, right? But the key is that you have to have all those components, or at least you can't have super weak components. I think that's the part I'm trying to get at. So knowing which team is going to get you there is important. So what got you to $1.5 million could be exactly why you can't get to $3 to $5 million, right? You got people that are good at what they do, but they're not ready to take the business to the next level, because everything after $1 million is about your ability to lead a team, not to do the work. And that's where most people fell out. And I say $1 million, it could be 2, it could be 3, but somewhere between that 1 and 3 million range. The issue between that and that $10 million threshold that we referenced is the owner's ability to delegate and get work done through others, not for them to do everything. And that's where this whole scaling ceiling really kind of plays in. It starts with the leader and the leader's ability to see what's holding the business back. Another big one is pricing. Countless times, particularly in service-based businesses, we have conversations where haven't reviewed or adapted new pricing strategies in years, not months, years, right?
Wow. Yep. That's huge.
And I mean, just look at what's happened in the last 5 years. Going into COVID, certain things were pretty static, right? But then during COVID, we had these huge run-ups in pricing for a number of different reasons. Shortages of materials and all that kind of stuff, and then prices went through the roof, and then they came back down, right? And people adjusted back and forth or whatever. But the reality is, in the last 5 years, most people did not increase prices, at least commensurate to the amount of costs of things that have gone up. And then the last one, comfort, has quietly replaced ambition, and that's the whole Mickey phrase, right? You get comfortable and you're profitable and you're making a living and you're like, I don't know that I want to keep putting those hours in. And this is why we had this conversation on a call maybe 2 months ago, and we were talking about starting a business and having a destination, right?
Yeah.
The flag, right? The
know where
flag
a flag stick is. Yep.
And if it is to sell, or if it isn't to sell, whatever it might be, if you start a business without a clear plan and where you want to go with it, another challenge or opportunity is you get to a certain point and you're like, this feels good. Let me just settle in here. So what happens when you kind of get settled?
Competition's still hungry. They're
That's
coming.
it.
You go from being the hunter. You go from being the hunter to the hunted. and and you know about that from your kickboxing days, things like that. When you got the belt, you knew, hey, I got to work harder now because everybody's coming for this strap.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, when you're on the come up, you're the one that's got to prove everything, right? And so you're hungry and you're trying to take out and you're trying to do everything you can do. When you're the champion, you got 10 people, the top 10 ranked people below you, that all want a shot at that title. Right. So now, instead of you being the one person looking at the one person that owns the title, now there's 10 people looking at you with the title going, I want that guy. And so
what was the switch? What like was it Sensei? Was it who was the one that basically got your mind right and say, hey, okay, you got the strap now. Here it's really going to start coming now.
Yeah, so good question. Ironically, no. So let's I'm gonna do my analogy in kickboxing, and I'll tie it back to business.
Right.
For me, I already had a plan. My intent, as much as it was to become a champion kickboxer, it was what's beyond that. I wasn't. The end all be all was not for me to become a champion kickboxer. The end all be all is for me to get into the martial arts and get into movies in the martial arts, to get into martial arts movies. That was my goal, right? So getting the title was just the next rung, right? Or not rung in the ladder, right? It was like, and so it wasn't the apex. It certainly was up towards the top of the ladder.
Yeah.
But that was like, once you've proven that gets you the recognition. Now you go and, okay, show people I'm a really talented athlete. I can do these really cool things. I can kick, bottles off of people's heads and stuff like that. Now, how does that translate into, being an actor and doing martial arts movies? Because that was kind of my ambition. And in the grand scheme of things, as I was moving through that process, what kept me going was, well, what's the next fight that's really going to put me out there? What's the next fight that's going to get me the most exposure? Who can I take on next that's going to get me the notoriety, the exposure? So most of the fights that I took towards once I achieved my champion status was either somebody who had a really big following or somebody who was in LA.
Okay.
Because they were already there.
So you go fight somebody in LA and you hopefully get discovered, right?
Hopefully somebody will see me there.
But now sometimes, and this happens a lot, and I'm going back to boxing and MMA or whatever, because like once you're a champion at, let's say, middleweight or something like that, the next obviously is go light, heavy, or heavyweight. You got to go light, heavy, get used to that feel of putting on the extra pounds. Okay, can I still move? Do I still have the speed? Things like that. So in business, it's the equivalent too. Once you hit that, say 250, then you hit 500, you're going up that weight class again. So you got to have that same. That's, if anything, that makes you, hopefully, will elevate that hunger back inside you. He's like, hey, I'm going up in a weight class. This is a whole new challenge here.
That's exactly right. And that's a great analogy, because it's exactly what happens, right? You get to a certain point, you get to 250,000, you're doing 20 grand a month, $25,000 a month. And you're like, oh yeah, okay. Now I've got some resources. I can do some stuff. It's not me living hand to mouth trying to make ends meet. Right. And then you get to that point and you're like, okay, well, I'm good here now, but man, it would be really nice if I had somebody to give stuff to delegate the stuff that I don't like to do. Right. And so now it's like, okay, well, if I do that, I got to bring somebody in. That means I can't pay myself as much money. What does that look like? Let me make that leap, right? So that there, the edge is, now I want to buy back a little bit of my time, right? Actually, that's probably one of the best analogies I could share with somebody is your business isn't about you running the business. The business is about how you actually build your own business, so that you're the owner, and then eventually you become the investor in your own business, or the chairman of the board. The chairman of the board doesn't run the operations. He's not even the CEO in most cases. The chairman of the board sits behind and makes sure that everybody's doing what they're supposed to be doing. That is the ultimate goal of somebody who owns a business, not to own a business, not to run a business, certainly not to run a business, because if that's the focus, you might as well just go run a business for somebody else. The odds are better that you're going to be more successful, and long-term, you'll probably make as much or more money. Because if you don't have the long-term focus to scale your business to a certain level where you can either sell it or merge it or get to a point where you're the chairman of the board and somebody else is running the day to day. That's the ultimate level of delegation, right? And at that point, I'm just cashing checks, living on the beach, right? Which is, I mean, and think about all the different reasons that people start a business. This is where the scale really becomes a discussion. Because at the end of the day, what did you start the business for to begin with? Well, I want more time with my family. Well, being an entrepreneur is not spending more time with the family. That's spending less time with the family. Guaranteed.
Right.
Guaranteed. Right? And especially the first 2 or 3 years when you're still trying to figure out how to make this thing work. Once you figure out how to make it work and you figure out how to make money, then it's like, okay, well, now I need to build the systems so this does this consistently over and over and over. Now I start putting the systems into place. Well, that all requires me to put more time and energy back into the business. Then once I get the systems in place, now I got to get the right people to run the systems for me. So I'm not running the systems every day, but I still have to be there to guide the everything and make it all happen, right? I'm kind of like the puppet master, making sure everything goes where it's supposed to go and people are doing it.
You want to keep, because you don't want to lose the quality of the product that you're producing, or you don't want to lose the quality of the service you're providing because you got so big and you got so watered down, which this happens a lot in businesses too. It's like, well, the quality of the product is not what it used to be because more people were concerned about margins than they were about, the quality of the product. So it's like, oh, well, we can change the product because we can get this particular material at a cheaper price and it'll increase our margins. But if it decreases the quality of the product, now I'm not going to buy the product anymore.
Right. Now I'm going to lose sales.
Right. So you got to have that balance, like you said, to make sure that the quality of the service or the product you're providing maintains that level. Even if it costs a little more to produce it, again, if you have a healthy enough margin, you can maybe absorb some of that, things like that. Because if you want to keep the integrity of the reputation that you worked your ass off to build, you know what I mean?
Yep, exactly. And I think that the other component that I would add to that would be, as you're talking about, you're scaling the business and you recognize, well, I don't want to water down the value of the product or service that I provide, right? So I need to keep the prices, I need to keep the margins, which i.e. the top line price, I need to keep those in a certain place. Here's what you have to remember. You cannot save yourself to wealth. You can't save yourself to wealth. You have to grow yourself to wealth. So what I mean to say is if you have a business that does, if you have a business that does $1 million a year, now I'm not saying you don't save. What I'm saying is you can't cut cost to become wealthy. You have to grow value, right? So to your point, I can look at my business that does $1 million a year and I have a 20% net margin, and I can probably cut costs on some products here, maybe cut back on some labor, save some money over here, and I can carve out 10, 20, 30,000, 10, 20, 30,000, and maybe my annual profits go from 20,000 to 200,000 to 250,000. Hell, maybe it goes to 300,000.
But if I cost.
Exactly. If I do that, what have I given up in return? Well, if I reduce the quality of my product, well, now my sales might start dropping. Almost invariably, they will drop. Maybe not initially, but over time, people will see the quality.
More importantly, protect the rep, because if you lose that reputation, because, perfect example for me, I was using like Dollar Shave Club or something like that and was with them for years. They improved their handle, and the damn razor head kept popping off the damn thing while I'm in the middle of shaving my freaking head. I'm like, okay. And then I switched over to Harry's and not looking back. So it's like, so they already lost that. Now they're trying to gain that rep back. It's like, once the rep's gone, that's it. I mean, you're cooked,
Right.
Sorry,
well, that's certainly
getting that back.
You might be able to get it back, but it ain't going to be cheap, and it's not going to be
really
easy.
expensive. Yeah. It's going to be really expensive is what it's going to be. It's going to cost you a shit ton more to try to get that back. Look at everything. Burger King is trying to throw ads left, right, and center saying how, we're it's like you are lost. You're gone.
Right.
Well,
and think about it. Yeah, think about that. You have multi-billion-dollar brands that are now trying to recapture the client base that they lost because somewhere along the way they made a decision that took them off course to who their core brand was, their core client was. And whether it was image which we saw with like alcohol, and we saw some people go in a certain direction.
Call it Bud Light. Just call them out. Just call Bud Light out. If you won't do it, I will. Fuck it. Yeah.
But whatever it was, whether it was image or to your point earlier about the reference and you being a huge foodie, you can't cut the quality of the food, right? If you have a restaurant, you cut the quality of the food, people are they're going to recognize it, and you're going to lose clients from it. So at the end of the day, and to your point, it not only it won't be cheap, but it won't be easy either, and it'll take you a long time to build that reputation back.
If you can get it back.
Yeah. And so the whole point is you can't save your saved wealth. You can't grow your business through saving costs, right? Yes. Is it disciplined? Is it good to have? Yes, absolutely. But at the same time, you can't save your saved wealth. You've got to grow to wealth. You've got to find new outlets, new areas to distribute.
Don't be afraid to fire somebody. Don't be afraid to fire somebody. If you got people that are coming on board and like, oh, we can cut our costs by X, Y, and Z. And again, if you're not thinking, if you start looking at the numbers and you get lost in the numbers, then you might as well just sell the business now because you're done. But if you say, hey, no, because that's going to, we use these particular products for this reason because it keeps our brand at this level, and if they're not down with that, hit the fucking bricks. You know what I mean?
Well, so, and the key is the balance, right? You have to look at it objectively, right? You have to be able to look. And here's the other part of that. The counter to that is, in most of the businesses we talk to, it's this person's been with me for 15 years. This person's been with me for 20 years. And I'm like, and they're good. But just like we talked about earlier, that's the quarterback that's not going to get you to the promised land. Right. That's the person. They may not be bad. They're just not good enough to go to the next level. I had a conversation with years ago. I talked about early in the podcast. Interview with a gentleman named Walt Lipsky. He was the president of the Arizona Business Brokers Association. And we were talking about it. He actually shared with me, I said, how do you get an unqualified CFO in a business that's doing $20 million a year? And I'm like, WTF? How does that even happen, right? And he's like, real simple. He goes, you start a business and you want somebody to watch your money for you. Right. So who do you hire to manage your money, to help kind of track that for you? Well, somebody you know and somebody you trust. Right. So who do you get? Well, who do I know and I trust? Well, it's either a really good friend or a family member, likely. Okay, great. And that's working out and that's working for you. The business grows and you go from, let's say, $500,000 to a couple of million a year. Well, now there's a lot more at risk. So who do you want managing your money for you? Somebody you really know and somebody you really trust. Right. Now, fast forward, you're doing, $8, $10, $12 million a year. Whoa, now how do you tell that person, I really appreciate you taking me this far, but you're not the guy that's going to take me to the next level. So do you demote that family member or friend and say, yeah, sorry, I'm bringing in a new CFO? How does that conversation go down?
Report to the coach's room and bring your playbook.
Well, and
that's when you know the game is over.
Yeah, exactly. But that's what the challenge is, right? That's what happens to the average entrepreneur that starts a business and scales like that, is they run into that. And again, these are reasons why a profitable business is not always a scalable business, because there's things like that these owners are not prepared to deal with. Either because it's psychologically, how do I process that? How do I do that? How do I sit down and have that difficult conversation? At the end of the day, what it really comes down to is you, as the business owner, have to protect the business. It's your baby, right? And if you're lucky and you hire people like the kind of employee that I was, you can find somebody who will run the business the way that you would run it, even better, because I'm there to impress you, right? So I'm going to run it even better than you might have run it for yourself, because I have a vested interest, right? You give me a vested interest in the success of the business, and so I'm busting butt because this is my opportunity to make something for myself, right? But the odds of finding that person, 1 in 10, right? So it's not a given, right? There's a lot that goes into that as well.
I keep trying to play. I keep like devil's advocate here today, I guess. I don't know, because now I'm thinking back to Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods had the best, purest golf swing ever. I mean, he's burying people. He gets a new swing coach, and of course, the new swing coach has to change the swing, because if I just have him maintain a swing, then I'm not going to show my value. This happens all the time in corporations. You know, you get a new district manager, they got to show that they're the new sheriff in town, and they're going to leave their mark in here. And I've told district managers, I've told them to their face, look, this thing is humming.
Yeah.
Sit back in the office, give me the things that I need, and collect your check.
Right.
If I tell you I need something, just give it to me and collect your check.
Right.
That's all I need you to do.
Right.
This thing's humming. Leave it alone. Nope, we're going to do this. And then all of a sudden everything starts going sideways, and I'm like, told you. And you didn't want to listen. So it's like, but there's that thing, you know, somebody, you know, might come along and say, oh, I can, and we get this all the time. Oh, your YouTube channel says I can take it here. You know, it's like I get these emails every freaking day.
Yeah,
you know
multiple times a day.
Yeah, multiple times a day. Or, you know,
right.
Oh, you're doing this, and I get, you know, I just again got pitch slapped for financial advice. I'm like, did you read my profile at all? You know, I used to work at Morgan Stanley, right? You know? So, you know what I mean? So it's like, just because that new shiny thing, like, oh, I can increase your profits by 40%. They may not have your best interest if they don't understand the culture of the business. That you got to build that culture, and are they going to come in? So I know we're kind of how you say, playing both sides of this. Like, you know, you want to bring in people that will get you that next level, but or do they understand the culture of the company, and are they going to maintain that rep and maintain that culture while taking you to that? If you find that person, which is the, you know, the unicorn, that can do that, then you go with them. But
well, that's what I said. You know, the reality of finding somebody who's going to align with you culturally. That's a good point. But then will execute at a level that either you aren't prepared for, or, you know, that's not the role that you play in the organization anymore. I mean, no head coach makes it to a Super Bowl with a bad offensive coordinator, right? And the offensive coordinator could be limited by the quarterback. Right. So, and the quarterback's growth could be limited by their quarterback coach. Right. And so it's like everybody has to be
a breakdown in the chain. Yeah. Yep.
Yep. And there has to be everybody in that has to be, you know, aligned on where we're going. Right. But first and foremost, this is where we're going. And all of that starts with the owner. This is where we're going. Right. If I came in, and Chris, I told you I've got $20 million. And I'm going to build this business, and I believe it's a $1 billion business opportunity. And I got $20 million. I got investor capital. Better yet, I got $2.5 million with line of sight to $20 million, with potential for $100 million to build this $1 billion business. Right, as far as financing, right, to grow this business. And I go to you, and, you know, I don't know, half a dozen other people, and I'm like, I know your skill set. I know what you're capable of. I'm going to bring you in on this business. We're going to scale this business to X, right? If I tell you from the very beginning, this is where we're going, and eventually there's going to be a sell. And if we sell, this is what your stake would be, and this is how much you get from it, right? But here's what we won't do. We're not going to water our brand down. We're not going to do this. We're not going to do that. We're going to have integrity with everything that we do. And I give the guidelines, and I say, this is exactly what we're going to do. You know, if I do that very clearly from the beginning, you know what your goals are every day. Because we know what the ultimate, where we're going in 10 years. We know what we want our exit strategy to be in 10 years. Whatever that is, we know what that looks like in 10 years. Even if it's just to sell out to a bigger company, whether we choose to step off the elevator at that point or not, that's entirely, we'll make that decision at that point. But you know where you're going from here to there, right? And that clearly defines where you go next year, and the year after that, and the year after that, and you get to the 5-year point. And you're going to look at it and say, okay, are we projecting in the direction that we intended? Are we on track for our 10-year goal? You know, whatever. But the point is, most business owners don't do that. And I'm not saying you have to go get a whole bunch of funding. I'm just saying they don't clearly identify, this is where we're going, and Chris, I want you to be a part of it, and this is how we're going to get there, right? Most of them don't even do that, right? They don't even say, you know what, Chris, I want to build the best landscaping business in the East Valley of, Phoenix. And Chris is like, well, but I live in Surprise. Which, for those of you who are not local to Phoenix,
Peoria.
is the other end of the world
Yeah.
from where
much.
I live.
Pretty much.
Yeah, so Chris isn't going to be excited about driving 45 minutes to the East Valley to help me run my landscaping business, right? And I'm going to have to really sell him pretty hard on why he needs to move to the East Valley to help me grow this business, right? But
Or
the
at
whole
least give
point
me a
is,
company trunk and an expense card, at least. If
yeah,
nothing.
yeah, exactly. The whole point is that my ability to scale is going to be limited by my vision and what I can actually put out there. And then it's going to come down to, do I have the pieces that I need to put in place? Do I have the right people? Do I have access to the resources? Do I have access to the capital? Did I build the business correctly to get access to the tools and the resources I need to scale the business? And then really the other component is, do I have the stones to do it?
That's
Am I willing to take the risk that I need to take at different phases of the scale where, it's literally I liken it to, I'm climbing a mountain, I'm doing some rock climbing, and I get to an overhang. And if you've never done rock climbing, you've done an overhang, it's scary as F.
Scary.
Because you're hanging there and you got your body up against the rock, and you may actually have to let go of the face of the cliff to grab the next rock, right? Theoretically, you should never want to do that, but you may get to a point where that's what you have to do, is you have to let go and push off to grab the next one. But if you don't, you're just going to hang there. Well, what happens if you hang there too long? Your grip goes out and you fall. So at some point you got to make the leap. You got to make that. And so that's what I say to business owners, is that if you're not clear on where you're going, you get to the overhang and be like, oh no, I don't want to do this. And you can't go down, because going down is going to hurt. Going backward, when you get to that point, that's not going to be fun.
No, not at all.
So anyway, the whole point is that, a scaling business, there's a ceiling on every business. The business is going to be, and that ceiling is going to be determined by you as the owner, in your vision, right? And then it's going to be the resources that you've made available to your business or gone access to for your business. And the third one's going to be your willingness to take the risk, right? And if you don't solve for those three things, or you're not clear on what those three things are, if you're not sure how far you're willing to push yourself, how far you're willing to go, if you don't align yourself to get the tools and resources, your business won't scale. So, and like I said, that last one is the risk piece. That's we get comfortable. We're like, and I might have every ambition of doing $100 million business, and I get about $15 million, and I'm like, I'm cashing checks at about $2 million a year. I'm kind of comfortable. I'm good. Life is good. I feel good. I'm stacking the dollars. My people are happy. I'm comfortable, and that may be fine, right? But know what that is before, and don't wait till you get to that, because if you wait, you get to a certain point and you're like, okay, well, I was going to 100 million, I got to 15 and I'm good. But here's the thing, you can only do that for so long before it starts slipping on you.
Yeah, because 15 is going to go to 12 and it's going to start going
back
down.
That's exactly right, because competition will eventually eat away at it. Competition, just the changes of the economy, technology, something will have an impact and actually start eating away. You cannot sit and neutral for too long. And so if you get to that point, you're like, hey, I'm comfortable. You may run at that rate for 2 or 3 years, but then you got to have your exit strategy very clearly planned out, because that limit on the scale that you put on the business, which is fine, but identify what the ultimate exit is, because it could be you step away from the day-to-day and you let somebody else run it because they have a different ambition now. You might be comfortable, but the person that you hired isn't. I wasn't. My bosses, that last wireless company, my bosses were like, yeah, you know what? Eric's an ambitious guy. Let's let him do his thing, and he'll keep running the business.
And give him or her the right comp to stay hungry.
Give him the motivation. Give him the motivation, and he'll keep putting the time and putting the energy in to take it to that next level. And at some point, he's going to look at it and say, okay, this has been great, and I'm going to have some piece of the pie or something like that. But okay, I'm kind of done, right? So you as an owner, you got to see these things and pay attention to these things. And a lot of this stuff is all completely. Everybody's like, I just want to do landscaping. I just want to paint houses. It's not that simple, and it will never be that simple. If it is, that's all you're going to do. You're just going to be basically a contractor for hire, and that's a tough gig, quite honestly.
And you have a job. You don't have a business. You have a job.
You have a job that you're beholden to your clients, right? As long as your clients need you and want you and they're willing to pay for the service, you got it. If not, then you're SOL. And like I said before, there's too many other variables that are going to eat away at that. You have to be moving forward. So
Again,
that's our topic for today.
if there was just maybe a resource, maybe a book that somebody had out there that went over the different, levels of scale and different ways that, there was just this book sitting out there somewhere that people could, buy on Amazon.
Yeah.
How do they get a hold of that book there, Eric?
You go to Amazon, as you referenced. Go to Amazon, the CEO's Playbook for Scale, and you'll probably have to put my name in because I still haven't sold enough books for Amazon to push me. But we'll fix that. We'll fix that by the end of the year.
That's right. We're just going to keep doing things like this.
Yeah. There you go.
All right, man.
Appreciate it.
Another splendid show, sir. Outstanding.
Thank you very much.
All right, man. We're out.
We're out.